Aaron Levy here, CEO of Box, and I'm incredibly excited to have Chuck Robbins, the CEO of Cisco, with us today. And first of all, where are you at in the world? How's this whole kind of craziness been going on your end? And thanks for making the time for us.
Yeah, Aaron. So thanks for having me. And it's incredible this year that we've had, isn't it? And I was joking with some of my employees earlier that I usually am not a guy who celebrates New Year's Eve, but this year I'm going to, because I want to see 2020 behind us. But I've actually been bouncing between San Jose and Silicon Valley and in Atlanta, where I have family. I figure if I got to be stuck somewhere, I'm taking the opportunity to also see some of my family as well. So right now I'm in Georgia.
Already starting on a point of optimism, though, that you're predicting that January 1st, 2021, like we're like this is all going to be behind us. Is that the premise of that point?
I don't think I'm predicting that. I'm just hopeful that 2021 brings something different than 2020 did. So I've learned already this year, don't say that it can't get any worse, and don't ask what could be next, because you will find out.
There's a lot of jinxing we can be doing at this point by predicting that it only gets better. But so first of all, and we're going to get into this in a little bit, but I do want to just say right out of the gate, thank you for your leadership. During this environment, especially for those outside of Silicon Valley, you've been who might not be as familiar with the local impact, but you've been just a huge driver of supporting the Silicon Valley ecosystem, those that are less privileged and have been dealing with the healthcare crisis, the economic crisis, now obviously fires, in a just an unbelievably tragic way, and how do we make sure that we support those communities, and you've been right at the forefront driving that set of efforts. So just want to say thank you, on behalf of the industry and the community, for everything that you've been doing in this really kind of crazy and unprecedented environment.
So thank you, Aaron, and you're being a bit humble because you've been right there with me. So we've been working it together. But I appreciate it.
You've been texting first, so you get all of the leadership credit, and certainly putting Cisco's vast resources at the forefront of this. So super proud to have you doing all that. So as we kind of think about this conversation, I think we want to really learn from really firsthand what this environment has looked like in terms of where work is going. Obviously, Cisco has an array of data points and products that put you in the driver's seat of understanding what the future is going to look like. So would love to just start firstly, what have the past maybe 6 months been like running such a large operation as Cisco? And in particular, as you look at the customer base and as you look at some of the trends of where work is going and how work is changing, how would you kind of characterize what this environment has looked like, and maybe a little bit about where we're going next?
Yeah, this is Aaron. This has been certainly an interesting time, and during the early phases of the pandemic, we were laser focused on our customers and helping so many of our customers get set up to work from home, the collaboration technologies they needed, the security architecture they needed, as well as some of the early response that we worked on together in the community, some of the most vulnerable. And that work continues. And then our employees, and we have evolved. We went through this sort of getting through the initial stages of the crisis, and then we sort of took our breath, much like many of our customers did, and then figured out what's next, and tried to assess sort of what does this look like, how long is it going to take, and I think every customer is doing exactly that. So a lot of the folks we're talking to right now are probably doing the same thing. And I think what has become clear to me is that there are things that come out of crises and tragedies that, change the way we think about the world going forward. And I think one of the things that has been clear is that my peers, your peers, lots of executives and people who didn't understand the power of this technology that we're using today now realize the power of the technology. And I think that's a big trigger that is going to change the future of work, as we talk about the future of travel, the future of business meetings. And, there's also this dynamic going on relative to who comes back to the office. Is everybody going to work from home forever? And I think we're all human beings, and I think we all ultimately want to be together. Right. But I do think that it'll be different in that I think there'll be an element of our employee base and probably our customers that will be in the office virtually every day. There'll be an element just like we have today, that'll work from home, and that'll probably be a higher percentage than we have. And then there'll be those folks that'll come in some, they'll stay home some. I think that, business travel will change, meaning that, even my peers and your peers, again, they recognize that this is a valuable way to have a meeting, and maybe we don't get on a plane for 13 hours to have a 2-hour meeting, then fly back. And then I also think it really changes how we leverage the technology. We have a vision for this technology that we're using there's a lot of work going on right now to actually try to make it 10 times better than an in-person experience. And if we can come close to that, then it really changes how productive we can be in this environment. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah. So when you, it's actually interesting that business travel front. For those out there, this has actually been my either third or fourth year I've been trying to get you to do this fireside chat. And it took a pandemic to be able to enable, but you're totally right, which is like, just getting on a virtual call, the ability to be in multiple time zones, multiple continents. I'm sure, before and right after this call, you're going to be talking to customers, and that ability to have that flexibility it's going to be hard to come back from. So when you look at that sort of future mode of, you're kind of describing a bit of a hybrid workplace, how do you think work begins to change? Because I think we have this interesting, the challenge of, okay, what happens to the people that go to the office? What happens to the people that remote? How do we bridge that? What does that tend to look like? And how do we carry forward, in particular, the advantages of this way of working, which is it's on demand, it's virtual, we can work anywhere, with the aspects of the, in-person environment that many of us, still wish we could be in, which is you're working with people, it's collaborative, it's social. How do you imagine that future hybrid state playing out?
Well, I think that's the interesting thing. If you go back 12 months ago, there wasn't a significant effort in the tech community to bring a lot of these technologies together. And now I think there's an incumbent need for us to think of, we need to be working on tighter integration between our platforms, right? All of this technology needs to come together. We need to really think through, how do we unleash the cognitive capabilities of our people through these tools? Because what we've felt good about is our ability to interact. Now we have to feel good about our ability to ideate and innovate and work together and be effective as teams, and sharing information and finding information, and the productivity tools integrated, and things like bringing assistance into this meeting that is actually translating and taking notes and action items, and integrated into other tools. And I mean, that kind of capability is what we're going to deliver. Right. And then I think we need to make it an environment where if there are 3 people in the office and there's 1 person coming in remotely, they don't feel like they have historically when you're coming in remotely, which means I'm not in the meeting.
Right.
Right. The other thing I think you will see as part of this is, I think in our offices, when we go back, I think every conference room on the planet now will have integrated video, because that's just what people expect. And if we have a huge population of people working remotely, and we do believe that we can hire people from anywhere at this point, changes how we think about hiring, our talent pools. We may actually get out of our belief that everything has to be in Silicon Valley,
that's blasphemy out here. So
I know. But I think to accommodate that, you're going to need video everywhere. So pervasive deployment of high quality video systems, but we really have to make it a seamless interaction, and for those who are in a room versus those who are remote, so that we can really accommodate the hybrid world that people are going to want to embrace.
Are you seeing, and whether this is in the Cisco employee base or with customers, are you seeing productivity is up as measured by, let's say, software features delivered, or sales calls, enabled, or marketing campaigns or customer tickets responded to, or is there enough other, sort of pandemic pressures, unfortunately, that are sort of hard to kind of account for? Like, are we more productive in this way of working, or is it all getting evened out because of these other macro factors?
Yeah, I think it's probably getting more evened out for most companies, but I think we can find we can find data points that would lead us to believe we're being more productive. Like the first 3 months.
I'm on more meetings than ever before, so I
exactly. If it's like hours in front of video equals productivity, then I'm super productive. But
okay.
The first couple of months, though, Aaron, we did see like the number of code drops that our engineers were putting up were higher. And I talked to several of my peers, and I think that seemed to be the case early on. I'm not sure that's the right long-term metric for productivity, to be honest, because I do believe that the real innovation and collaboration piece that people love to do face-to-face, is suffering to some extent.
Yep.
But the good news is I think we're all pleasantly surprised at how effective we've been able to be. And I reflect back, if this had happened 10 or 15 years ago, just think about what the condition of the world right now would be. It would have been a train wreck.
I don't think I could be remote if we were on Internet Explorer and AOL Instant Messenger, which was like the tech stack of 2005. So that would be a pretty tough environment to be in. Fast forward 3 years or 5 years from now, and we are in that hybrid environment, and workplaces do have flexibility in where and how you work. What do you see as the upshots of kind of this new level of whether it's employee engagement or you mentioned kind of being able to bring more communities on board, into your organization that maybe were not as big focus areas previously. Talk a little about that future in 3 or 5 years out. What are you kind of picturing that world to look like?
Yeah, the irony, Aaron, I think this has, like inside our organization, it's kind of created this sort of flattening of the hierarchy because we're and our employees would say we're further apart, but we're closer together,
Right.
And it's because we do lots of all hands, and they love seeing the executives casually in their homes. We're much more informal, so I think it's teaching us a lot about how people want to engage inside of organizations, and we were already doing it probably more so than we did 5 years ago with just super transparent, and that's the way you are. I mean, you're just like, you think it, you say it, right? And you're people. Well, I don't mean that negatively, Aaron.
No. I was just thinking my legal team doesn't like that part, but everything else, I generally am.
You speak plainly to them, and you speak authentically, and you just tell them the truth. And I think this environment has, when we're all sitting in our homes, I think it's created that atmosphere that our employees are saying, we like this, right? And I think so. That's something we need to learn from. I think the second thing it does for us is, as I said earlier, it does open up how we think about where we source talent and where we build engineering teams and how effectively they can be. Because while they may need to be together in a region, they can probably work across. So the subsequent part of that is, does this give us the opportunity to go solve some of the inclusion issues that we have where communities have been left behind, they aren't participating at the same level, and can we leverage this technology, and can some of us as leaders take the technology, work some public-private partnerships to establish capabilities in communities that haven't participated to the extent that they could and should, and we could take education in, we would know what kind of jobs we're looking for, what kind of jobs people want, and we're now comfortable that they can work remotely. And we see it in the real estate market. People are leaving the urban areas, heading for more suburban or rural areas where they have higher quality of life or lower cost. And it is, I believe, it's going to be the new thing for us going forward. And there are things that we don't even know yet.
Yeah.
We know things today that we didn't understand 4 months ago. And that's the beauty of this, is things are going to hit. I mean, industries are going to be changed forever. If you look at the number of people who participated in a telehealth appointment this year in the United States, right? Just think about the regulatory environment didn't support it.
Yeah.
The doctors hated it. No one wanted to do it. Most patients said, no, I want my doctor to touch. Now they're like, no, I don't want that. I'm happy with video. And that's going to fundamentally change healthcare. And it's going to change our ability to deliver quality healthcare into rural parts of every country around the world. I mean, this if we're looking for a silver lining from a super tragic situation, there's a few of them in there. There are really a few of them.
When you look at those industries maybe most positively impacted, I mean, we know, the difficulty that hospitality or airlines are going to at least temporarily deal with. When you look at the industries most positively impacted, where you're optimistic about the long-term transformation. What are some others that kind of come to mind beyond healthcare that you're starting to see within the customer base are really transforming and taking advantage of this moment?
I think higher education will as well. I think, primary education, I think those kids need to be in school, and they need the attention span's a challenge. And if you have small kids, you probably agree with me wholeheartedly. Higher ed is, I think, is going to open up, much like healthcare, it's going to open up educational opportunities because they're going to build platforms where they can really create that hybrid environment where, as much as some schools want to bring students back on campus, and they're also recognizing that if you're immunocompromised, you need to have the same experience. It's the meeting thing we were talking about earlier. You need to have the student who's remote get the same experience as a student in the classroom. And once you have that, then I can deliver education into rural parts of this country and rural parts of other country where it didn't exist before. And if you think about leveraging 5G infrastructure, rural broadband build outs, and then follow on with education, follow on with healthcare, and then follow on with what we were talking about the inclusive capabilities that you can deliver with this technology, we could actually go make an impact in areas of the world. And I think that is really exciting for me. And we actually changed our purpose statement a year ago, ironically. For years, we had the old change the way the world lives, works, learns, and plays. And we changed it a year ago, and we changed it to power an inclusive future for all. And the reality was it was a combination of what our technology does, which is fundamentally connect people and bring them onto this global economic platform, and then our social responsibility beliefs. And between the two, we felt like we could have an impact on that. And boy, we didn't expect what we're seeing today, but as I've been thinking through what does this allow us to do in the future, it really gives us that opportunity.
Yeah, really, really exciting. So it's interesting because you guys play in everything from the sort of core infrastructure. You kind of just threw out 5G in there, which we're all relying on, and the national and global build out, all the way down to the end user experience on products like WebEx and obviously more, some of the security technologies. When you think about where we are in that journey of modernizing these infrastructures, how many years out is it to this vision? So when you look at the technology landscape, maybe from a Silicon Valley on out type of view, obviously the cloud sits at the center of this modern way of working and driving digital transformation. We've been partners for many years between Box and especially WebEx, but also some of your security products. We've actually introduced some pretty exciting updates throughout this year to just better serve customers on how do you make it so when content's stored in Box, you can serve it up in a WebEx conversation and video call or chat. And have that data also go back to Box. When you think about where the technology is evolving toward around interoperability, around being able to deliver these sort of best-in-class experiences for customers, where do you think that's going? Do you see more of this type of trend of interoperability, more seamless experiences? How well do you think we are doing as an industry in moving in that direction? We have conversations every day with IT leaders that say, hey, I want my technology to work better together. I'm buying these best-in-class solutions, but I need to make sure that they're more seamless and they're more connected. What do you see as the future on that front, and what should CIOs be thinking about?
Yeah, I think we're in a much better place today. I'm not speaking for 100% of the companies, but if you go back a decade ago, there was very little desire for tech companies to integrate or even interoperate because the competitive differentiation was you buy my stuff. Right. And I think there's to some extent, there's new leadership who believe differently. If we just, you and I don't have an issue because we don't have any overlap. And so, you can initiate a WebEx call from within Box. You can actually bring a Box file and open it up without having to download it.
You don't know about the router division that we're launching?
But like Satya and I on the Microsoft side, the customers were yelling for years, like, can you integrate Office 365 and your collaboration technologies, and we've made a lot of progress, and a lot of that was just getting the right people to actually agree and realize that the customer, we're going to compete in certain areas, but we have to do the things that our customers want us to do. And so I think they'll continue. I think the customers that are listening, you have a lot of power, and you should be very vocal with your partners and make sure that we or they or whoever it is know exactly what it is you need from an interoperability perspective. Because from our perspective, I know, and I believe this is probably true of Aaron as well, if we're not doing it, it's because either it's on our roadmap or we don't know anyone wants it yet.
Right.
I mean, it's because those are the only two conditions that I think are viable. Either you haven't told us or it's on our roadmap. And if you tell us, it's going to, and it may be a year away, but that's how we think about it. So.
And I think that speaks to the kind of customer centricity that Cisco's had, really since the founding of the company, especially in this environment. How has that customer centricity played out? Obviously you guys are famous for leaning in and supporting customers, getting them through, difficult periods. What has that been? Because we obviously have seen a lot of disruption in different sectors and different industries. How has that customer-centric approach kind of played out in this, during this period?
My belief is the way we respond to that problem should make our relationship with that customer stronger after the crisis. And I think this is just a macro example of that. And we want our customers to feel better about us as we come out of this. And I think what happens is during these major crises, customers turn to their partners that they know they can count on, they know they can trust, and they know have the fortitude to ride it out with them. And hopefully we've exhibited that. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you have, and as a longtime Cisco customer, I mean, we've been super happy about all the support over the years, and we know that the way that you've operated in the industry with all of your customers, I think have been the same experience. So it's been great to see on that front. And when you look at from a leadership standpoint, leading through this type of environment where you don't always have we don't have perfect information, and we don't know what's going to happen next. Obviously there's been so many different unexpected events and curveballs thrown at you as a leader. What is leading through this environment looked like? How have you made sure to keep the organization aligned? And then in particular, the kind of especially community impact that you've been able to drive, how is that tied into all of this? Yeah,
so I'd say on the employee front, we immediately went to we call a weekly check-in. In fact, we have we're every 2 weeks today, but in the early days we went every week. And we knew our employees were stressed, and the key, we were trying to just be honest based on what we knew at the time. And we would tell them things might change in 2 weeks because this is we don't know right now. And we also knew that people were concerned about, they didn't understand what was going on with the virus. So we had medical experts on these calls. We still do to this day. They still join us. Mm-hmm. Then, about a month to 2 months in, we began to just really realize that this was taking a mental toll on our employees. For those employees who were either isolated, forced to live by themselves, and when we were really locked down, or they have young children, or they have elderly parents, or whatever the situation is, it could be, for any individual, it's been very stressful, and it still is today for lots of our employees and lots of people dealing with this. And so we started bringing mental health experts on the calls. We brought musicians on the calls to just provide, some motivation and inspiration. I have some friends, and I had to tell our employees, they all came on for free, which was great. They were just, they did it just to support, us during this time, because we support them, and we're involved in charities together. And so that's where we just communicated. And it was so important to be honest and to be clear, because when you had to go back and tell them something had changed, you could connect back and say, look, here's what I told you a month ago, and guess what's happened, right? So I think that was the first piece. And then on the community front, there was just an early phase of this thing where there was so much need, and there still is. There's so much need that we just went in hard early on, and we're still doing things clearly today. But like during that first wave, it's almost like governments can't operationalize that quickly in many cases. So we did, you did, others did, and we try to meet the need locally. You run a great business, and you get back in your community. And I've told our employees, if you're not running a great business, it's going to be more difficult to do this. So we got to focus on both. And And, that doesn't mean you're not going to make tough decisions. It doesn't mean you're not going to have tough times in your business. But as long as you're doing the right things, then it really matters. And, we live in a world where our employees care deeply about the purpose of the organizations they work for. They care about what you stand for. I mean, all of these issues that are flying around us right now, our employees are not letting us off the hook. They're saying, right, you need to have a position, and we want to know what it is. And that's what's asked of us now.
And a lot of times, and I think this has been maybe a 5 or 10 year journey on this topic. A lot of times the question is, well, sort of why is business getting so involved in many of these types of topics? And as CEOs, why are CEOs starting to drive these types of issues and initiatives? What's your perspective on the role of business in some of these very critical topics, whether it's the social issues that we're dealing with, the healthcare crisis, economic recovery? How do you see the role of business in shaping that or participating in that?
Look, there's a lot of areas in society that I think we have proactively desired to get involved with. Different companies at different levels, but I mean, getting involved in education, getting involved in different philanthropic activities, inclusion of communities that were underprivileged, helping deliver technology into areas that were underprivileged. But then there's these broader social issues that you almost get thrust into the middle of, and it's, there was a time where a CEO could just, it was quite valid just not to say anything.
Right.
And that's a valid position to take. We're not going to, that's not, we will run our business. Those days are behind us. I think that society, the press, our employees, our customers, our partners, everybody's looking to us. And it's very complicated. It's very complicated. So we've tried to, like with our employees, they always want to know where we stand on issues, and where an issue is binary, and it's so clear to us from our culture and what we believe, then we'll take the stand. Yeah. There are lots of issues where half our employees feel one way, half our employees feel the other way. And in that case, I said, look, guys, this is just, this actually, your belief is a reflection of how you were raised and what you were taught. And what I would ask you to do is find someone who thinks the opposite of you and have lunch with them. And try to understand, why do they think the way they did? It's not because they're dumb. It's not just because they don't believe the same thing you do. It's actually a byproduct of everything we've been talking about relative to diversity.
Right.
We want diversity because people come with different backgrounds, different experiences, and different thoughts. And that's what's manifested in why they think differently than you, and that's okay. But it's certainly a different world than it was a decade ago.
Yeah. Well, again, I think your leadership on a lot of these issues and initiatives, my purview is more local in Silicon Valley, but I know that you guys are having a global impact on these issues. So it's very inspiring, and again, you're leading from the front. So it's been great to see. All right. Well, Chuck, I appreciate the time. Again, it's fantastic having a strong partnership with Cisco. We want to be able to deliver just truly incredible experiences for customers that are using Box and WebEx together, again, amidst a much broader portfolio. Obviously, products like Umbrella and just driving deeper security integrations. A lot of work in front of us, but exciting to be able to drive the partnership forward, and looking forward to making our customers wildly successful together.
Well, thanks for letting me be a part of it, Aaron. I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. Take care, Chuck.
See you later.